Welcome, welcome, welcome to our 23rd ReactJS Girls. And finally, it is in London after such a long break. And we are so excited, so happy to see you in the live stream. And I've seen there are a lot of people waiting in the room. And we already have a lot of people coming in person in London. Just have a look, there are so many people. We will be here in 15 minutes. We will start our amazing talks from our amazing speakers. And we would like to ask you questions. Are you a React developer? Are you just a JavaScript developer? Are you starting your career in React? What's brought you to ReactJS Girls? And stay tuned, we will start very soon. Here you go, we are here now. I'm welcoming all of you in the ReactJS Girls. We finally made it. Come on. We finally made it. So I'm so excited. And it's my first time hosting an event. So if anything goes wrong, please forgive me. And by the way, forgive Lewis, because the guy behind you, that's his fault, because he made me as a host today. So that's it. ReactJS Girls number 23. But what is the ReactJS Girls and what are we doing here? It's a meetup, and for every developer who is doing React, it's mainly for the women, but we're welcoming everybody and every single person to be on the stage. Right, next one is who am I and what am I doing here today? I'm unfortunately a software engineer, and I work every single day with React, so I know all of the pain points and amazing stuff about the React. So I work in YLD, and YLD is an amazing company. If I won't say that, guys will kill me. So it's an amazing company. We are so happy, and honestly, it's great. What is the ReactJS Girls? It's a community. We are welcoming everybody. We are a lot of engineers. We are a lot of women, and some guys sometimes. And we are very happy to tell you that YLD won an award, Most Impactful Contribution to the Community in 2022. So please, guys, say thank you, like YLD. We are so proud. We are so proud. So what is the agenda for today? Because all of you are here, the door's already open. I already talked to our audience live, and we are live streaming. So if anything goes wrong, not my fault. The first talk will be at 7 p.m. Working? It's not. Well, great. One more time. We're live. Sorry. Reset. Typical. That's not mine. That's not mine. Great, I lost it. Well, bear with us, where we are. No. That's not mine as well. That's not mine.
Drag it across.
I'll just drag this one across.
Here you go. Yep, no.
Here you go. Finally. My first time, so if any mistakes, that's actually my fault. So yeah, React Girls is a community. Please feel free to join it, and we are very happy to have more people coming. Our agenda for today is to open the doors, and you're all here, so we're all good. Livestream is not watching us today, and they probably watch me struggling here, so that's also fine. And then we will have our first talk at 7 p.m. with our first speaker. And then second talk, another amazing speaker we've got for you today. It's 7:25, and then we will have a little break for you to have drinks and some food, and then we'll have a third talk at 8 p.m. Please make sure that you will be asking questions, because if you're not going to ask questions, I will find out you. And then we will wrap up at 9:10 p.m. and then we will go to the bar, to the pub, which is nearby. It's like 5 or 10 minutes walk from what I know, and I can't pronounce that name of the pub, so just read it from here. So this evening topics, we've got an amazing speakers today. We have Faduma. She will be talking about, so you created an app, what's next? I'm so excited about this one. Mocking Jest. Melissa will telling us about the Jest and mocking and what's happened about the React testing libraries. And then we will finally, but not less importantly, we will have Neha. She will be talking about elevate your coding, and that I'm also excited about. I'm very excited about all of the talks here today. Some logistics, because we're without it. Keep your language clean, be kind to each other, and do not share any inappropriate content. For the live stream, join our conversation in the chat, because we will have a YouTube live stream chat, and we will be using the slider. And if you look at the top, we have a QR code, which is the QR code which will give you all of the information about all of the events and to the slider, so you can ask any questions you have for the speakers or just in general. This is the bigger version of the QR code. Please just take a picture and make sure that you have it. It should give you an access to the slider and to all the events. Follow us, ReactJS Girls, and React.js, take as many pictures as you want for the React.js Girls, and just hashtag us, because we love social media and we love being live. And now, we have our speakers, our amazing sponsors who made this happen. Because we're all here, we're all live. We have Wildy, the whole team around you is the Wildy team. And just say thank you that we finally made it live. And we have our albelli-Photobox group, which is hosting this event. This is why we are here. We are having this space and they're sponsoring us. The first one who is going to be presenting is Wildy. And please, Louis, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm back. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm back. I won't ask you to move this time. So yeah, my name is Luis. I'm just here very quickly and talk a little bit about Wildy. So I'm head of product design at Wildy, and I also work as part of the client partner team. which basically means that I get to work very closely with our excellent team that works across various clients on many different industries. So we do a lot of open source work. We work with a whole bunch of various technologies. Actually, last year we worked with over 22 different technologies, which we are clearly very proud of. And obviously, that's also included React and React.js, hence why we're here today. But actually, we don't only do engineering and software. We also work with design, UX, design systems. So we offer product development support to a whole bunch of clients. We have a lot of openings at YLD, and for those of you who are interested and thinking, maybe I should have a new adventure, check out all our offerings and openings, and you can find them. There is a QR code that's already been mentioned. If you go to that QR code, you can find everything about YLD. We got a website there, which kind of looks like this, actually. And then we have all the openings, and if you have any questions about YLD at any point during this evening, please feel free to just grab me or anyone else wearing a YLD t-shirt, and you probably also noticed there's a fabulous table over here where the people will be very happy to chat to you and tell you anything you want to know about YLD. That's enough about me. I'm going to hand back to Jana. Thank you so much for having me.
I got this one. This should work. Hey. No, I for this event apart from host it, but welcome everybody. It's lovely for us to be able to use this beautiful space that we have within Herbal House, which is the sort of London outpost of the Photobox group. And I'm really excited to see everybody here tonight and thank everybody from YLD who has helped make this. So I am DJ, I'm the CTO of Photobox group. I have been for roughly 6.5 years, and actually I'm the reason that the albelli-Photobox group used. I joined as an engineering director, and we started our replatform. And we've had some trials and tribulations across the previous 5 or 6 years doing that, but it's been a great journey, and I'm really excited to be able to see what everyone else about it tonight. So a little bit about the albelli-Photobox group. We are the European's largest business-to-consumer personalized photo product, which means we take lots of photos and turn them into things that you touch and feel and give to people rather than within your phone. We turn 150 million euros a year by doing that, and that means we're kind of big enough to have some really interesting problems, but small enough, which is why I'm still here, giving it a go. I just want to say nobody's here to hear me speak, so thank you very much for coming again. I hope everybody enjoys the talks tonight. I'm really sorry I can't stick around. I need to be there for my daughter who's having some challenges at the moment, so family first. So I apologize I can't stick around, but I'm sure it'll be an amazing set of content with a great set of speakers and hopefully some lovely food and drink. And please enjoy and make the most of this space. Thank you.
Thank you very much for hosting YLD, and everybody, thank you very much for coming. The next part is the why we all here is this one will be from Faduma. Are you ready, Faduma? Are you sure? Okay. She will be talking about, so you created an app. What's next? Please applaud and welcome to the stage, Faduma. You to hold up as well. Okay.
I'm not sure. Is it this one? Okay. Oh, sorry. Let me just go do it. Sorry. Let me just. God. Sorry. That's right. And 2 seconds. And then I'm going to move that. that way. It's just to move that over there. Oh, thank you. Yay. There you go. Oh, let's not spoil it. Hello, everybody. Hi. I'm going to be doing a talk about, so you created a React Native app. What should you do? How do you get it onto people's phones? But I'm going to introduce myself first. But the way I'm going to introduce it is with this. Yeah, I have Beyonce tickets. That's who I am. Yeah. If you want to, thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, well, I feel very smug today. But yeah, that's to begin with. But actually, who am I? I'm Faduma. I'm a senior software engineer, and these are my socials, basically. But let's get started. So some of you might be like me, who used to just work with web apps and maybe super curious about React Native and React apps, and actually how the hell do you deploy them? Like, what do you do? If you've worked with desktop, well, I should say web apps, sorry about that, but it's very easy to deploy, right? There's so many available applications and Fastly, Netlify, and it's very quick to do it. Do you remember this ad from, they're called Fastly now, but deploy your front end in 15 seconds. With React, with native apps, it's not the case, I'm afraid. I'm going to have to burst your bubble. It's not going to be 15 seconds. So let's get started. So how do you actually get your app into people's hands? We have to begin with the gatekeepers, right? You know, girl boss, gatekeep. These are the gatekeepers. If you want your app on people's phones, you have to go through Apple or you have to go through Google. And if they say jump, you're going to have to say how high. You do what they say and you follow their rules. Yeah. So to begin with, to set up, you have to set up a dev account with both of them. So that's the first step. But there is some, you know, ease in the air, and that is App Center. So I'm going to talk about that mostly today. So the next thing you should do if you want your app on people's phones is set up your App Center. And she is the moment. She's the girl. She's going to help you out. App Center is, oh yeah, so instead of having to like build and deploy your app to each of the stores and have to go through 2 different ways of deploying, you can use App Center. App Center is great. It allows you to deploy your app on many different, you know, iOSs like iOS, Android, Windows, and many more. So why is it great? It's super easy to set up. You can attach it to your GitHub repo, and that's very easy to do. And you can have different build configurations for both iOS and Android in one place. And you can have different configuration for different branches as well. So what does that look like? So here you see I have main and staging, and I have 2 different configurations are triggered manually through GitHub Actions. And you can see here, this is what the configuration looks like. So you can, basically it's just clicking on things, which makes it super easy. You can configure it the way that you want. But before then, there's something really important to do while you're configuring. So you've got your App Center, right? You've set up an account, you've attached it to your GitHub repo, and you started clicking on things to configure it. Before then, you really need to get your certificates. It sounds really challenging, but it can be a very simple process if you calm down, take a breath, and go through the proper process. So for development staging, you're going to need an ad hoc certificate, and for production, you're going to need a distributor certificate. It's really, this is one of the admin that you need to get through before you can actually get your stuff on people's phones, and just do it as soon as, basically. It's the same with Google. So Google, the easiest way to create a certificate is through the Android Studios, and you just save your key. Oops. After you've saved your key, you can then use the same application and add your certificate so that Appcenter can sign build for you. You can do it on your own, but honestly, so now you're ready to set up your app, right? But wait, maybe you want to QAing, right? Maybe you want to have the application on people's hands before then, send it off to people. And this is where Appcenter can help as well. So for different branches, for example, staging, you instead of sending it to the store, you can send it to a group of people like developers or QAers, and they can have it on their phones to test it out, to make sure everything's okay. And it's in the same place, basically. So now are we ready? Not quite yet. You're going to need to connect to each of the stores, right? So for staging, maybe you send it off to developers, and then for production, you're going to send it off to the actual stores. So this process is actually also quite simple if you just follow their directions for each of the stores. So it's very easy to do Apple. You just log in with the account that has permissions to do so. And then for Google Play, you're going to have to create a API credentials and then save the JSON. This is the part which actually freaks some people out, maybe me, I got freaked out, is that because Apple and Google are the gatekeepers, they're not going to allow you onto people's phones without reviewing what you've done and making sure that you're following their guidelines. So you're going to have to follow their rules, basically. And every time you do sort of a native application update where you've changed something, maybe you now want access to people's cameras, or you want to create events, calendar events, or you want to do something else that interacts with the native layer, you're going to have to do a review. So yeah, don't be scared about this process. It's not that scary. Their rules are quite clear, and if you just follow it, I think it'll be great. But I'm a Virgo, so I don't know, maybe I just like rules. So but yeah, the review process, which is the most frustrating thing, is it does take a little while. Like it takes 1 to 7 business days if you're Google. Boo Google. Get your shit together. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But that sounds really long, right? Do you have time to do this all the time? So what helps out is something called code push with App Center. So what code push allows is that if you, for example, don't want to do, if you're doing basically just JavaScript or image changes, you can send off your code and get it to people's phones without having to update and go through the review process. So it's much easier. So yeah, that's basically how my sort of inspiration for you. So be free, create your Flappy Bird. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Am I? Yeah. Thank you so much, Faduma, for an amazing talk. That was a very interesting one. I will quickly connect myself to... If you have any questions, please do use our slider. So we will ask the Q&A question will be at the end, and we will make sure that we will ask as many questions as required. And just a quick setup. Obviously not. No, that's for me. I'm not going to show that. And that's for us. Finally, I made it today. That's actually working properly. That as well. So yeah, if you have any questions for Faduma, please do ask the question in the slider. And our live stream, could you please tell us from which countries are you watching us from? Because we are so curious about it. And our next speaker will be amazing Millisande. Am I pronouncing it correct? Not really. You will say it again. She will be talking to us about the mocking jest. This is a very important topic, and I personally want to know more. Millisande, the stage is yours.
About mocks and make sure you know about that too. And then we'll move on to what are the actual lessons learned. So if you guys already know everything, we'll get onto the live demo really quickly and you'll see me have a go myself. So first up, who am I? Why should you care? My name's Millie. Millisande is how you pronounce my name, but call me Millie, it's fine. I should have told Yana this. Whoops. And I've been a senior developer now, running teams at IBM Consulting in the digital agency section called IX. And I've been experiencing some issues you might have experienced yourself. So one of those is often on projects I'm spending a lot of time doing UAT testing. So first off, if you're not using Jest already, if you're not doing unit tests with Jest already, it's all part of that shift left so that you're doing less of the work in the UAT space that's more time consuming. You're automating more. Also, I'm very lucky in that I largely work on greenfield projects. So my longest ever project has been 2 years long. So, good for me, but it's probably not the case for most of you. So, going back and looking at the 2-year-old code, it's often hard to know what it's doing. So if you write good tests, if you follow the guidelines I'm going to go through, you're going to get a better, easy to read list of all of the use cases. So make it easier to understand what you're working on. One of my projects I've worked on was for a UI component library that was used by hundreds of teams, and there was an inner source model, so they could all contribute. And obviously, if one person puts something in that breaks it for 20 other people, the person that gets the slack, me. So don't want that to happen. That project actually insisted we had 100% coverage on all our UI components, which was tough. So some of the lessons learned got me up to 100% coverage. You don't probably want to do that, but you can if you do want to. And if you're writing tests, they're probably failing some of the time. I spent a lot of time fixing failing tests, and hopefully the things I'm going to teach you today will help to resolve them much faster. Cool, so first up, I want to make sure that I'm tailoring this to what you know. I don't want to leave anyone behind. So if you could get out your phones, go onto slido.com, put in this number, and we'll find out how much everybody knows in the room so far. So this is why it's important that I'm mirroring, because I can switch over to this lovely view. I was thinking maybe I would introduce a drum roll at this point, Oh, we've got lots of experience in the room. Amazing. I use Jest now and again. Use it now. We do have some people that don't know what Jest is. Yes, no live demo. Yes, more people that don't know what Jest is. Amazing. Oh, Okay, I've learned what I need to know. I'm doing the whole talk. I'm sorry, everyone. Cool, here we go. On to what is Jest? So Jest is a unit test library. So this is the most basic, smallest part of your code that you will test. You will write a unit test for it. And Jest is considered largely the industry standard. So in the 2022 State of JS survey, which surveys 39,000 people and more than 39,000 people, 68.3% of people are using Jest. Jest is the most common JavaScript testing library. And built on top of that are other libraries that are designed to be used for testing React. So we have the React Facebook team have actually produced their own React test renderer to fake what the DOM's doing when it renders something. And then also there is this testing library that's commonly used. So 34.7% of respondents are using the Jest testing library. And there's also a React native version of it as well. So if you are interested in using Jest, I highly recommend looking into it, and you are probably likely to be using these libraries. So this is an example of a Jest test. As you can see from just reading it through, it is written in a really human readable way. The test can be broken up into describe blocks, and you can specify whatever you want in that describe block. You can specify whatever you want in your it statement. And so for each test, you would have an it statement, and in that there would be an expect statement that will be true or false. And that's how you know whether your test passes or not. It should all be true. And Jest comes with lots of really useful utilities. So one of those is the before all, the after each. So there's also, you won't believe this, an after all and a before each. So you can use these to kind of reuse the same utilities multiple times. You don't have to rewrite it. Jest is full of lots of features, and it's full of lots of different expect statements. And I'm not going to list them all because there is only 20 minutes in this talk, and I love testing, and I want to talk to you about it. So I've put some of the ones I commonly use. So the first block, that's what I use when I'm writing backend tests and vanilla JS tests. They come with Jest out of the box. And then the lower level, that's what I'm using when I'm doing my front-end testing. And if you want to know my opinion about to match snapshot, I would love to get into it in the Q&A section, but I don't have time right now. So what are mocks? I like this image because it's evocative of what mocks are. We've got this beautiful Shibu, and next to it is something that's a little bit like it. It has some of the features, but it's not quite as good. Oh, yeah, sorry, you're right. No, it is as good. Soft toys don't have feelings. I can say what I want. So here is a very super simple example of your UI. So you've got a UI component. Maybe it's using some React context to share what the user's ID is, and then it's going to a backend to go and retrieve data about that user. Let's say you're running a test and your internet goes down. Suddenly, your UI component test fails because it can't connect to the backend server. Or let's say someone changes something on the backend server. Now your test fails and you don't know why. Likewise, if you change something on the React context, now your UI component test might be failing. And if you've got lots of things using that React context, lots of your tests are failing. So where are you going to go to try and troubleshoot that? I mean, if you're clever, you'll know that they're all using the React context. But we can save yourself seconds by not actually running the test with the real React context or the real backend server. So this is why mocks are super helpful, because it makes all of our tests more modular. There are lots of different ways you can mock things. So here are some of the common approaches, and most of them are, well, all of them are built in Jest automatically. So we have the factory function in the top left, and I will explain why this is my favorite in a second. We also have the spy function in the top right. These are my two favorites. Spies are really good because you can specify a mock for a specific function from a module, whereas the factory function replaces the entire module. So a bit like that soft toy is replacing your dog. I hope it doesn't, but yeah, you get the analogy. Jest also has manual mocks. I don't like these as much. This is a personal hang-up. I find them a bit black boxy. Jest will automatically pick up anything that's in the module to mocks, the mocks folder. and you have to name all of your files exactly the same way in exactly the same format, and it'll be done automatically. I don't personally like it because I find it a little bit less intuitive to be able to read the test and know everything it's doing, but it's good for when you're reusing the same mock in multiple things. And then the worst one, I hate this one, import mock and assign. I keep finding the mic every now and again. So I hate this one because I work with TypeScript a lot, and TypeScript hates this one too. It doesn't like when you try and reassign something as something else. Besides which, you're importing the service, and then you're not making it clear that the thing that you're working on is a mock. So that's why I hate it. But what do I love? I love the factory function. Look at it, isn't it beautiful? I need to stop turning this way. Let me turn this way. So the factory function, I like it because it's the most flexible. You can do dynamic mocks, so you can reassign the mock as you're going, which is what I'm doing here. Just remember to always call the thing you're reassigning a mock function, because if it doesn't start with mock, the factory function doesn't like it. You can also do static mocks, so you never have to change it. You can also mock objects, and this is the only one that lets you mock an object. So they all get hoisted when you start the program. So you've got to remember that when it runs, and it runs the function inside your mock, nothing else is defined. But as long as you remember that, you're going to be very happy with these. I'm telling you, factory functions are the way to go. Oh yeah, and TypeScript doesn't care what goes on in these. It's great. Okay, so what you really want to know is what's the lessons learned. I hope I got all the people who needed to know what Jest was up to speed. So for the people in the room who use Jest a lot, hopefully you know most of these. So first off, when you're writing good tests, you actually have to start with the code that you're writing. I'm not talking about TDD. You can ask me how much I actually do TDD, and I will answer it in the Q&A, and I'll be embarrassed. But you need to be writing code so that it is modular, because if you have a modular code that you are testing, your tests become a lot smaller, they're much easier to maintain, and they also are more readable, and your mocks are so much easier because you're only going to be mocking the one thing that that function is doing instead of mocking 20 things that that function is doing. So another really useful tip is to use describe blocks to separate out your code. You saw the example earlier, it makes it more readable. Write your tests so that they're independent. They shouldn't be reliant on the state of the previous test. It means you can use that .only syntax that I flashed up on the screen a little while ago, so that you run one test at a time. Makes it much easier to troubleshoot if one test is failing. And you should use the before eaches and the after eaches. Let's reduce code. Let's make sure that it's quick to refactor. All right, actual tactics. And I made a mnemonic? Not an acronym, the other one. And I tried to do it for the other one, it was too hard. So everyone should remember should. And this is really simple because every time you write a test, you normally start it with it should. So you'll remember this one. So what does should stand for? So this is about, you've reached the end of sprint, you've been working on one dev ticket, and the very, very last thing is writing the tests. And you're like panicking because there's only one test and it keeps failing and you can't make it work. This is when you should think about should, and it stands for switch it up. There's lots of different ways to skin a cat with Jest. So there's lots of different mocking methods, and there's also different ways you can get kind of code coverage. So think about, maybe I need to actually mock React itself to achieve what I'm trying to achieve. Maybe all I need to test is the child component from my styled components, because then I can just put in whatever I need in as props. I don't have to rely on the whole thing. Change your approach. Keep trying, that's what's important. H stands for hoisting. Make sure you understand how hoisting is affecting your tests, because otherwise you're going to waste a lot of time. .only, when you're troubleshooting, try to reduce the noise. Use .only liberally to just make sure that any console logs that you add are just for that one test. Update options. Don't forget that Jest comes with lots of options. So you can change the global time. You can change the amount of the timeout time for Jest. You can change the timeout time for any wait fors that you're waiting for React to render in. So don't forget that that tool's there. Log it out. Add console logs. If you know how to use breakpoints, do that. I still haven't worked it out myself. So I'd use a lot of console logs. And finally, don't give up. I would like to add an asterisk to this one. Sometimes it's just not worth it. Doing 100% coverage is a pain, and sometimes that's just not worth your time. So you should give up when it's right for you. But remember that everyone has been here. Have confidence that you will get through this if you try and switch it up as many times as you can. Stack Overflow, as always, is your friend, but I didn't think it needed to be said. Okay, well, apparently I'm doing really good for time. So everyone who said you talk really fast when you're doing a talk was correct. So apologies, everyone. Right, so the idea now is I'm going to actually put the pudding in my mouth and eat it, as they say, nowhere. So I have made this portfolio app. It's just a Create React app. Don't worry too much about it, but it's just to give an example of an application where I'm adding tests. So I'm going to be adding tests to the header element. You can't actually see it. Actually, can I inspect it? Here we go. Yeah, here we go. There's the header. It has 2 buttons. One button picks up and changes the theme that's shared by the context. Ooh. Ooh. Thank you, thank you. And I have a button for my CV, which I don't want to add. But so all I want to do is it just goes to be added later when I console log. In fact, do I need to make this bigger? To be added later. Woohoo! Here we go. Lots of to be added laters. So I'm writing a piece of. Actually, yeah, it is on the screen. Amazing. So I have written Jest tests to try and achieve 100% coverage on my portfolio app. So I could run Jest easy as that. And at the moment, I am missing some code for line 60 of my header element. Cool. So the header element on line 60 is doing the console log. Here it is, to be added later. So I was going to do this as a mob programming example, but there's lots of you, and I couldn't work out how to do it. So I'm just going to, for the purposes of time, talk you through how I'm going to resolve this. So apologies, I will continue to talk. Here is my test where I'm going to be triggering the onClick. So let's do fire event. And we know that with this, I want to expect that console.log has been triggered. Cool. Let's see what happens when I run this. Oh, it's failed. It's actually killed my entire test suite. And I'm also getting a console log, which I don't really like either because it's not relevant to my test whether it actually does the physical action of console logging. So the complaint is that it must be a mock or a spy. So I know I have to mock console.log. Now, console.log is pretty special. I don't know where it's coming from. I know it's coming from globals, but I'm not actually declaring it as an imported module. So if I was to try and do a factory function with this, I don't even think it's possible because I can't actually say I'm mocking this module. So the only way to do this one is with the spy method. So I'm going to do jest.spy on, and I'm going to do it based on everything that's in global. And then I can specify console, and then I can specify that the function to be mocked is log. And because I don't actually like seeing the logs, this is a massive bugbear for me on my current project because everyone leaves their console errors in, and I don't know if the test is actually working or not. So mock implementation, I'm just going to specify for it to do something else. I could actually replace this and be a good Jest coder by replacing this with the default Jest fake function. Right, let's play that again. Ta-da! Beautiful. Clean code, 100%. Thank you. Right, I have had my 5-minute warning, but I wanted to show you the context mock. So I need to rename these so that they get not included and go back to having some coverage issues. Rename this. Cool, now this is the test. This one is expecting to mock the React context. So we have that toggle button. I'll show you it in the code. We're importing toggle theme, and then we are triggering toggle theme when I use my toggle component. So what I need to do is to, God, how did I do this? Okay, I have worked out how to get the switch statement with this fire event. Good past me. But the thing that I haven't mocked is the toggle method. So yeah, I've got my spy already. So this time I am going to use a factory function. So I'm going to do jest.mock, work out where my use theme is coming from. This needs to come from the header. Use settings context here. Cool. Now, I need to then specify what this module is going to expose. So I've actually written my context in a clever way to make this super easy, and I will briefly, if I have time, show you how I'm doing it if I don't. So actually, I'm exposing the settings context with already wrapped with use context. So this is it here. Use settings is already wrapped with use context. And that means all I have to do is to write use settings here, say that it's callable, and then toggle theme will be exposed from it. And I think I can write const mock toggle theme equals jest.fn. And here I can just do mock toggle theme. Notice that A, I haven't turned this into an object, and B, because this is a function, it's not going to be called until the render method happens. So even though the factory function's hoisted, which would mean that this didn't exist at the time that it's run, by the time that use settings is triggered, this mock toggle theme should exist. So I can now do our event, nope, expect toggle theme, mock toggle theme to have been called. Here we go. Let's try running that again. Oh, failed. What did I do wrong? Oh, settings context dot use context. Settings context is not a function. Boo! Why not? They're all failing now. God, I didn't factor this into my timing. Right. What am I doing wrong? So it's saying that settings context dot use context is not a function. Oh, it's just because I called it the wrong thing. Use settings context. It was all planned. It was all planned. And I know that I have to go off, so I will just leave you with just an image of how you would have to write the test if you weren't wrapping it in use context. So you see here, I'm actually having to mock React, then import what React actually is, and then specify what use context is, and I have to make sure that my settings context has a display name, because otherwise my theme provider won't work, because theme provider from style components is using use context under the hood, so that would stop working. So wrap all your use contexts before you export them. That's my takeaway, as well as should. Thank you. Cheers. Oh yes, the fiddly bit. Oh.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing talk, and I will be asking so many questions. Sorry, but I feel much better now after my console logs in the test. To be fair, it's thank you. I feel much better now. So the quick one from me right now. So how many React developers do we have here? A lot, right? Who is coding in React for like a year? More than a year? 2 years? 3 years? 10 years? Not 10, but okay, that's very good going. Then I don't feel too bad that we don't know what we are doing here. Right, give me a second. I'm always having problems with my laptop. That's it. So if you have questions, please QR code, slider, because I think you should have a lot of questions, because I have a lot. Otherwise, I will just take the stage and guys, we're not going to go anywhere today. And we will have now 15 minutes break. Our agenda right now we will have a 15 minutes break, and then at 8 we will start our third talk. But please make sure you're like 5-10 minutes in advance so we can kick in and make sure that we're all wrapped up in time, because timing is a very important thing. Otherwise, Lewis will tell me off. So have a food and enjoy the event. Don't take that. Wanna take that? No. Hello, it's me again. We are just having some snacks and drinks. We will start our third amazing talk like literally in 10 minutes, so stay tuned and we will be back with you in 5-10 minutes. See you. Yeah? Are we all getting ready? Are we? Where are those people at the back? Come on, come on. Timing, timing. I'm watching you. So we are finally on the third talk and have Neha, and she'll be talking about elevate your coding. And I think that will be a very interesting talk. So welcome Neha to the stage.
Yep. Perfect. Sure. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Last talk of the day. And this is my in-person talk after 2 years of gap. So I'm a little bit nervous. If it would have been an online talk, I would be very amazing. So just ignore if you felt that I'm pretty nervous. Okay, so my talk is about elevate your coding techniques for crafting clean and efficient code. In short, keep your code simple. So instead of having like 3-4 lines fancy things, I will be talking about keep your code simple, which is very, very important. Why? As I move along, I will explain you the pain points as a point of reviewer, as a point of developer, why this is very, very important. But who I am? My name is Neha Sharma. To pay the bills, I work as a principal engineer at Oracle. To share my knowledge, I run a small community back in India. I'm from India. I'm an organizer there. To make my soul happy, which is very important for mental health, I do calligraphy. And to be acceptable by the world, I'm on Twitter, where I do shit posting. But right now I'm on detox. So this is my handler. Folks who are not from India, if you will see the name of my spelling in my Twitter handle, hello Neha, it's double H. The reason is my name is the most common name in India, plus my surname is the most common surname in India. And I keep joking about it. If you will combine all the Neha Sharma in India, you will end up with a city there. So that's why I have a double H here. Now, this is my calligraphy work. So this is what I do. This makes me happy, and I am a very big I will be using a bad word, I don't know, but I'm okay, yeah, let me think about a good word. I'm a very fond of quotes, and whatever I get, I just start doing calligraphy. So just giving you a hint of my work. Now, whenever you are writing a code, it's bad, messy, whatever, it is working, so why should I care? My code is done, my PR is merged, it's running out there. Who the hell are you to tell me that my code should be rewritten or refactored? Every wrong, bad, messy code can function. It can produce the desired output. I would say that's the magic of code and developers who know this art. But if you wanted to be a good developer, you need to identify what is wrong, what is bad, what is messy, in fact, what is complex, that you should be identifying. And that's the job of every developer. I'm not saying it's just a senior developer job, it's the job of everyone. Fancy code is not equal to best code. If you are on Twitter, you will keep seeing a lot of threads, a lot of screenshots where they claim this is the best shortcut and all that. But trust me, fancy code is not the best code. We will see the example. So simple versus fancy. As we will move along, we will understand that what is the wrong, what you can improve. If I have to summarize, if you are writing a fancy complex code, you will end up reducing the developer productivity. Maintenance issues would be there. There are so many issues I can point out, which I will keep doing it as I will show you. And the most important thing, this is not one-time job. If you are thinking tomorrow, not tomorrow, tomorrow is Friday, so Monday you will go up and you will be like, I'm gonna refactor everything and I'm done. No, it is a ongoing job you have to keep doing. Every time you are touching the code, you have to refactor. And it doesn't mean you don't, if you will not touch your code, you don't need to refactor. That's the thing. You have to do it if you want to maintain the project. So the first thing is, because this is a React specific talk, I have given this talk to 2 or 3 times before, and that went for 40 minutes. So I have cut short and pick only React specific points here. So destructuring the props. If you have your React code, obviously you will be using props. The one of the common pattern is to just use props when you are defining the component. The problem here is when a code reviewer or a developer is picking that code, that he or she has to go inside and figure out which all props are we getting. So the best thing is when you are writing an efficient code to define, destruct your props in the signature. Now why? This will simplify. As a reviewer, in first shot, you will see that, okay, these are the props you are using. If they are not getting used, they will be highlighted. Simple thing, but trust me, it increases the readability of your code and helps the fellow developers to understand what is happening in the component. Very basic thing, but I have seen that this is a pattern where few of the developers don't do it, but I would suggest if you will start doing it, it will help you. The next thing is single responsibility model. If you are coming from the solid principle of programming, then you might be aware of it. You should be making single responsibility model. As a React developer, we keep writing components, and sometimes we become so much into the code, we forget or we miss out that we are missing single responsibility model. One of the example is this. In this component, what is happening is we can easily break this into 3 different components. But why? Because then what you will be end up is a very clean component. You have different components, you can easily manage them, you can easily refactor them, and we have seen the talk before the break where we talked about the modular testing that you can do very easily here. And if you don't want any profile or button or nav, you can just remove it. You don't need to go through like this. So your scope of component is reduced. You are reusing your components also. You are maintaining your components also. You are doing a lot of things. Again, I have seen a lot of developers who actually take pride that their component line of component is 50, 100, more than that. And I always keep asking, can you refactor it? Can you break into multiple components so that it can be easily to maintain? The third is reusability. I just gave you an example of component, but when you are writing the React code, there are places where you can easily identify where you can move the code out of your components logic and move it to utils and helper. That will help in maintaining again your code. Also, reusability would be very, very high. Example, camel case to normal. This is a normal utility which you can just write once and your rest of the team can use. Most of the time we developers crib about consistency, that I have written this method, can you reuse and all that. The best is whenever you identify something like that, put it in utils or helpers and make sure that every developer is using. So consistency would be there, number of errors would be reduced, and you have one place where all the methods are there. And also if you are into a side projects, then you know that in future if you are going to use any of such method, you have one place to use it. And not just in React, also in CSS you can do it. I love CSS, but whenever I see code like this, I can't hold myself back and I'm like, oh, please, you have to refactor this. So it is very important that as much as our React JavaScript is important, similarly, CSS is also important because web is made of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So if you're loving JavaScript so much, please also take care of HTML and CSS. The next is state. We all can't live without state in React.js, backbone of our React.js. Since hooks came, there is no looking back. But the thing is that are we using the state carefully or not? Setting up state for everything, it's not great. It actually introduced the issue of maintenance. So always look back and see if you can merge the state or do you need the state. Example here, we are getting the data from a form for a user email and name. Instead of having 2 separate ones, you can merge them into one and create one object. Simple one, help you to maintain your code very much, help the reviewer to review the code very easily. Small things, but huge difference. Use fragment. I come from India where we are not much into web accessibility or accessibility. So a few years back, I started with accessibility. When I was working with React before Fragment, this was my pain area. Why we are introducing div every time? I don't need a div. And thanks to React team for introducing Fragment. If you are working on React, you are writing JSX. But JSX at the end of the day is creating HTML. And for accessibility, it is very important you use the right tag. So it's very, very important. If you are just wrapping everything in div, I'm sorry, you are impacting accessibility. It is very important to understand. So please use Fragment. Where you doesn't know which tag to use, definitely you should know. But if you are not sure, if you don't need a div there, please go and use your Fragment tag. The example is, here we are trying to wrap a component. Before Fragment, if I will be using div, I will be end up with the div in the DOM, which is not a recommended way. So by using the Fragment, we will not be end up with the empty div. I don't know what's the right word, but extra div, yes, sorry. So this is how it would be. The next is type checking. JavaScript doesn't have any type check. This is an advantage, but now most of the application we are building, they are very complex. I have seen myself, I was anti-TypeScript, but now I am TypeScript person. The reason is I have myself seen that how many bugs I was able to minimize because of the TypeScript. We developers, I will speak about myself. I used to say, oh, I'm writing this code, there won't be any issues. I know the requirements, I know everything, I have experience. That was my confidence. And when the errors used to come, I was like, okay, something got missed out. So please, if you can, I would say you should start using type checking. If you are not a TypeScript person right now, it's okay, at least start with prop types. At least start doing the basics one. You will see that it will create huge difference. Now talking about clean code, it will help you at the end of the day, because what you are writing, like tomorrow is Friday, I don't want to be bugged by an on-call defect coming to my way. So you will be very thankful for that. So a few of the example I just take for the prop types on the top and TypeScript at the bottom. So please, if you are not into this, please try to start doing that. The next one is naming convention, which is, I think, everyone's best. Naming your variables, components is the one of the hardest thing. And I accept that. I also used to struggle. But as a reviewer, I started understanding that naming makes huge difference. There were so many times when the variable name, component name, class name were not making sense, and I was like, what this particular class is doing, what this particular component is doing, what this particular function is doing. It's very hard, and making your names, variables name or names meaningful is very, very important. So I will give you an example. This is one of the code. It was sort cursor. So I was like, okay, it's sorting cursor, but what cursors are doing? I am not working on any such project. The second one was on click up arrow. Again, not clear what it is doing. So whenever I look at the code, I first try to see, are the naming convention making sense or not? So please try to make your names of variables, methods as near to what they are doing. It's very important. Now, it should be self-explanatory. Camel case or any specific pattern should be there. So if you are not sure which pattern to use, go back to your old code and see what is happening there, what pattern they are using. If it's a method or a function, it should be verb. If it's a variable, it should be noun. And please do not write names like QUE. Is it a queue? Is it a query? I don't know what's happening. So please help everyone and help yourself also, because after 2 weeks, when you open back your code, you yourself will think what is happening here. Fancy syntax. As I mentioned, every day you will see on social media that someone is coming with some beautiful shortcuts, fancy syntax and all. Trust me, it creates a lot of issues. Yes, you are very updated and everything, but when we work in a collaborative team environment, either you do the knowledge sharing or either you need to help the other developers what is happening. So if it's your own fancy syntax, I'm sorry, it is not gonna help, because it is gonna impact the readability. Example, I'm not sure how this class name, what you are trying to do here. Can we please move it to some other function correctly? If you are a anti parenthesis or flower bracket person, I'm sorry, but my rest of the code is using curly brackets. So you also have to follow the same. So these are the things which every developer should be aware of and should be following. Architecture. One of the advantage and disadvantage of React.js is there is no single pattern architecture like Angular providers. So every now and then people will come up with their patterns. So it's very important to understand few fundamentals. Whenever you are creating a React project, your architecture should be easy to understand. The ways it is very well organized, easier to find the files, and should be scalable. It should not be like that you are just putting anything everywhere. Most of the biggest example I can give, few developers prefer to write their CSS, their types inside a folder of the component. Few developers prefer to put it outside. And if they both developer working together and if they don't like to talk to each other, you will end up in a messed architecture. So it's very important to think about the architecture which is easy to understand, easy to find the files, and scalable. For example, this one, components, constant, context, mock, test, everything is there. Consistency. This is my favorite because I always tell at the end of the day, your code should look like that it is written by one person, not by 6 people of team. So it's very important to maintain consistency. If your code is not having consistency, I'm sorry, it is not scalable. You will end up with bugs. You won't be able to reuse. There would be a lot of mess. So think about consistency wherever you can see. By looking at your code, it should not look like, basically, I'm a senior developer, so if I know every team developer, I can point out, okay, this code must have written by this team member, this code must have written by this team member. It should not be like this. So think about consistency everywhere whenever you are writing the code. And the thing is, few of the points which I mentioned, they are not just React.js specific. You can implement it anywhere in any programming, whichever you want to use. So yeah, so one of the example is here. If you will see, this is the code from the same project. I will start with the function where the component name is starting with capital, but at the bottom it is all uppercase. Then the third line where we are writing the class name, there's a huge difference again. My -8, at the bottom it is my 8. So consistency is missing. Even in constant also, if you will see on the top where we have span, you have footer.copyright without any hyphen or space. But in the header, you have copy hyphen writer. Now you can see that I can tell you the few bugs which will easily come just by looking at the constant, that developer end up with 2 copyrights. One is without space, sorry, without hyphen. Now what is happening is your bug will come, update your copyright. So the developer will go and just update one copyright because might be that maintenance developer doesn't know that there is another copyright there. So these are the small things, but they actually open a box of bugs. So these are the few things which I wanted to share with you, that how you can maintain or write a clean code and efficient code. So just to summarize, props, I didn't talk about test cases because we had a very awesome talk before the break, but yes, please follow TDD wherever you can. Fragment, single responsibility model, type checking, reusability state. I didn't talk about few of the points because otherwise this talk will go and go on. But there are others also which you can pull back, like configs, variables, hard coding, formatting, linting, there are comments, there are so many. So yeah, this is about my talk. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for lovely talk and consistency. Honestly, yeah. And the testing, guys, and the React Native deployment. So I'm just letting you know we will have something to talk about. Let me sort out my techie stuff. I think that's a problem because if you're a software engineer, every time it doesn't work. Like the tech just does not work. So this is our Q&A. Just scan the code, ask questions, because we will start getting ready for the Q&A session. And if you want to vote for the best question being asked, please do, because we have quite a lot to talk today. So don't hate me about asking too many questions. Right. Do you want to bring the chairs and everything? It's just that one.
Switch already.
No, it's fine. Put it in there. Let's switch it on. Yep. Can everybody hear me? Is there not? That's the most important one. They can hear you. Okay. A little bit of magic. You didn't see anything. It's just the chairs appeared and the speakers appeared on the stage. And give me a second because we have too many questions. If I didn't ask any, please forgive me. But it's just me always having a problem with like to look at the second screen because I have no idea where my mouse is. Where is it? That's it. That's it. We got it. Finally, we got it. Sorry, guys, for keeping waiting.
Right.
And I will have a question for all of you.
Are you sitting comfortably?
Not really. So, now I'm feeling comfortable. So that's the part where I need to look through a few things, and if I have a break tool, we'll be good to go. Right, my first question for all of you.
Yeah.
How did you end up in the software engineering role, and do you like it? You can pass the microphone.
Yeah, I have the microphone, so if you don't mind, I'll go first. So I left university with an archaeology and anthropology degree. There's not many jobs in archaeology or anthropology. I went and did marketing for a bit, and I worked at an e-commerce site that does airport parking in hotels. It's called Airport Parking and Hotels Limited. It wasn't very fun. They are lovely there, and I would recommend it if you want airport parking or hotels. I went and did a master's in human-computer interaction because I thought from my experience in marketing, I would be a good fit for UX. And I just fell in love with coding. And luckily, IBM were recruiting at the time, so they were offering me a education path to be a developer. I joined IBM and I became a UX service designer. So from there, I had to claw my way back to being a developer. Had a lot of luck with mentors who brought me onto projects. And since then, it's just been plain sailing. I love coding. I find it so fun. I find it so satisfying.
Every day.
Every day.
For sure.
Okay, maybe not every day.
99% of the time.
And that's me. I'll pass over.
Right. I'm also a career changer. So I did a law degree because my family's from the immigrants, and I was like, I'm gonna be successful regardless. I'm gonna be either a doctor or a lawyer or maybe an accountant if I feel, brave. But I chose law, and although I did like my degree, I didn't actually like being the realities of being a lawyer. So after my degree, I felt very tired and unsure, so I gave myself a break before I was going to continue being a lawyer. So I was going to do my master's. And in that time, I started doing hobbies, and one of them was coding, because I remembered that my IT teacher gave us a class where she was like, "We're just gonna do a web page today," and I made sparkles appear every time you moved your mouse, and I remember feeling joyful, and I was like, maybe that's something I can do, just lift my spirits. And I started to go to Code Academy, and I got obsessed. I did all the courses, and then I went to code school, which was like had fun theme songs for each thing, like HTML and CSS. So I was like, oh, I like this. And then I was like, actually, maybe I should do this as my like full-time job. So very stupidly, or I don't know, very successfully, I quit my job and I did a boot camp, and that was nearly 7 years ago, so I haven't looked back. Do I enjoy? I do actually. I do really like coding. It used to be a hobby, and it's no longer. Like, it's my day-to-day job, so I don't really do it. I try not to do it after work. So yeah, that's me.
That's a good timing. That's a good timing.
Okay, so I wanted to be a journalist, and my dad, he picked this career for me. So we had a deal. I told him that I will sit in the competition exam for computers only if you will pay for my journalism competitive exam. He agreed, and I was like, okay, fine. I prepared for journalism exam. I made sure that I fail in the my computer exam, but God and my stars, I failed in my journalism, for which I prepared, and I got into my computer degree. So this is how I started my computer journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then same thing. I started with web page coloring and everything. I developed a website for my college. I got a lot of appreciation, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's go with the flow. And this is how I started my career. I got the job and all that, and now I'm here. Do I enjoy it? Very honest, if my project is working, my feedback is good, there's no bug, PRs are getting merged, I'm the best developer. If there's a bug, I'm like, okay, what is this another career I can choose? Shall I start doing cooking? Shall I go become a painter? So yeah, this is how the life of a developer, I think. But at the end of the day, yes, I enjoy it, to be honest, because I feel, I look around, my sister is in non-tech domain, and I can compare that kind of the life they are living. We always script that developers' life is hard, but I'm thankful that we are still we do have good jobs, and we do have good companies and openings around. So yeah, as I told you in my talk, for to pay the bills I work. So yeah.
That's great. I mean, guys, and I used to be an architect, by the way. Hello, and I ended up doing software engineering. So I'm with all of you. It's never the bad time to start doing React.
Yep.
And coding. We're all on the same page, right? So, Millisande?
Yep.
Is that correct? I'm pronouncing it right.
It's Millisande, but you can call me Millie.
Oh, because it's like, need to say it right. Millie, what do you think of Cypress?
Excellent question. And I always feel like it was planted by someone in the room, and I know who it is. So I have used Cypress. I do like Cypress. It's part of a suite of different test strategies. So Jest is really useful for the unit tests, and Cypress is that next level up where you're starting to put all the pieces together. I've not really used it extensively for unit testing, and people today have been telling me how they can use Cypress in interesting ways. So personally, I think brilliant. Add it. It makes a huge difference to, especially at scale projects, of knowing that what you're shipping is good quality. I have had problems with Cypress with timeouts, but that is a personal bugbear with a particularly time-intensive UI flow that I had. But, that's not Cypress's fault.
And then, following question. What do you think is a good test coverage?
Yeah, so this is quite contentious. So as I said on a previous project, I was asked to make sure it was 100% accurate, covered even, and that's not best practice. Like I would say, your best case is probably you want 80% accuracy, but even that is up for debate. I mean, Ken Dodds, who writes the testing library, has said you shouldn't look at code coverage at all. Like, the thing that matters is your business case coverage. There's just not an automated way to have a green tick to say, yes, you've done all your business cases. So when we had the 100% coverage, actually a lot of the time we only achieved it by turning stuff off, going, we're not looking at coverage on this particular file. So it's not actually 100%, even when we said it was. So aim for 80%, but if you don't hit it, don't worry about it.
That's a good one. That's an amazing one. So next one, I have a question for Faduma.
Sure.
And how difficult do you find it deploying React Native applications? I mean, just in general, deploying applications is usually quite difficult, but from your experience.
Yes. Well, if you compare it to a web app, it's a lot more difficult, in my opinion. I feel like there's much more support and tools and magic that kind of takes away from actually seeing the bare bones how to like deploy stuff. So like Varsal and Netlify, etc. So if you compare it to that, it is more difficult. However, I feel like I said, using App Center and tools like that kind of help with the difficulty.
The following one then, do you find it simple to use the App Center like applications, or do you need to use Swift to be able to deploy something, or like do you find it useful?
Well, you can use just React Native with App Center, so you don't have to do like an iOS app by itself or Android. You can use those as well. So it does work with React Native. So all the JavaScript developers that want to do an app, that works with it too. So I found it much easier because when I joined the project, they were not utilizing it very well, and it would take hours to deploy. So I enjoy things that make it my life easier. So.
Oh, that's great. Do pass the microphone to Neha because I have some questions for you. Neha, do you have tips on how to avoid prop drilling?
So the way I actually follow the what React documentation prefer, I follow the same one where what you have to do is you have to just think that maximum 2 to 3 levels your prop should be there. Otherwise, you need to think about what is the better way to do it. That's what I follow generally.
And about the naming convention, are there any guidelines that you can communicate? And this is like, I'm really curious about them. Are there any guidelines that you can communicate to other developers, or like how do you want to create a name conventions? Because different people, different ideas, different way of writing it.
Sure. So the best thing is what I mentioned in my talk also, that first thing is the pattern. You wanted to do camel case, which is the most accepted one. So the first thing is this. I don't know why would someone will go for uppercase. So, and if you will go for all lowercase and you will be having multiple words, then it would be hard to read. So the always think like you are standing at the next end of your code and you are reading it. It is making sense or no. So the first thing is the patterns. The second thing is, if it's a method, obviously it would be doing something. So make it like the way we do change handler on click. So make it actionable verbs. And if it's just a variable, then make it noun, name it. And it should be very clear. The biggest hesitation I have seen in developers is if their function name or variable name is going more than 2 to 3 words, it's fine. It is totally fine. Because if your code is very large, you are working on a very production level heavy application, definitely you want to be very clear with what your function is doing. So the name it's okay if it is going more than 2 or 3 words, it's totally fine. And the best thing what I do is, if I get confused, what I do is I go on GitHub, look for the top projects, go and try to read their code, what kind of naming convention they are following, what are the good practices they are following, and I try to adapt that. So yeah, these are the few tips.
Thank you very much for the great answer. Now I have a question, which is, because we have today senior software engineers, and you probably guys needed to mentor, give a feedback about some of the work in the project. How do you communicate to the team about the requirements or needs which are needed to be developed? Just like from your experience with your teams, or like between teams.
Okay, so I will go first. So whenever the requirements are coming or the new story is coming or project is coming, if they are designs, if you are lucky enough, you are getting some designs or wireframes, that I actually request at least give us something, wireframes, to get an idea, a reference point that what we have to do. So what I prefer to do is I sit with the team and I take them through. I also try to have a walkthrough that what these designs are expected to do, what things are assumption, what are clear, what are doubts. I try to capture everything with my team. And then what we do is, if they are document, generally there is no documentation because it's a new project, or what if it's a legacy project, try to start maintaining those. And then breaking them into smaller parts. For example, if it's an application where we have to do API integration to get the listing of the products, then start talking about that, what we are expecting from the API folks, what is expected or what is required to make this module, what are we need designs, what are the product, if the API is coming and product listing is coming, what are the actions we can do, and all this. So basically, get in a room. If you are working virtually, then get in a Zoom, sit there, do the brainstorming with them, Figma, designs, talk about from your experience, look around different applications, what they are doing, because nowadays designers also prefer that we developers come and give them more ideas, or the product owners expect that we come and challenge them. So that definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good ideas. In terms of like team feedback and like cohesion, I really like having sort of just developer retros. I think when you're in a team and you have a cross-functional team and you do retros, most of the time is about the project. It's never about the specific code base or your project or how you felt about what you delivered, and just developy stuff. So that's what I really like doing. Also, it allows for a constructive way for people to voice their concerns about things and come up with ideas to make things better. So then it's not just in PRs or other places where people get frustrated, where people are not following patterns. Why? So I like doing that.
Yeah. And how long was your retro? What is your longest retro?
To be honest, I love retros. I'm gonna be saying that. So I'm biased in that respect. I like emotions coming through. Like I want to know what's going on. But however, I think sometimes people use retros for, it's just a bit boring. Yeah, where they're not really, there's no psychological safety. So people are not really talking about what the issues are. So then it gets a bit dull. So yeah.
That's a good answer.
So agree with a lot of the comments. Definitely, code reviews I find a really essential part of just asking, why did you do it like that? Have you considered the ramifications of the way you're doing it? But I'll probably take this question a little bit further and say, at the moment, I'm a senior developer, and the developers that I'm working with aren't as experienced as me. I've been on teams where I'm the senior developer and some of the team members are 10 years more experienced than me. And I was given the senior developer role because I was better at the client interactions and the prioritization. And I just had to back myself that, okay, I'm not necessarily going to know the answer about their coding questions, but I've been put in this role for a reason. And actually, in those cases, I would often be asked by these 10 years more experienced than me developers going, this table method that we're using here doesn't seem right. And I'd just be like, oh, really? So what would you say would be the right one to use now? Oh, I think we should do it like this. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do it like that then. And they were like, okay, thank you very much, senior developer. I appreciate your feedback. And I'm like, okay, great, thank you. So, the roles that you bring and the feedback you can give is not dependent on experience. It's not dependent on confidence. You'll get there in the end. Like right now, I just tell people, why are you doing it like that? Don't do it like that, because I now know what I'm doing. But even before that, I'd be in a position where I could still give feedback.
That's a great one, yeah. And while you have a microphone, may I ask another question? What is your thoughts on using snapshot tests?
Hey!
Because that's the question, is like the most quoted one. So, you have a Cypress, now you have a snapshot.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you have a
Yeah.
testing.
So I really dislike Jest snapshots. Jest creates a fake DOM, so it's not actually representative of exactly what you're going to see in the UI, and it misses a lot of stuff, and it kind of just prints out a load of your props. So especially I was using Material UI, which is a library, common library, and I think people behind Google are behind it, but using themes there, you just pass the whole theme object into the props of every component and it gets printed out. And if you change your blue color slightly, every single one of your snapshot chests fail. So everyone just gets into the habit of just doing like I'm going to update the snapshots. I'm not even looking at them. So they're just a waste of everyone's time. You should be writing, if you care about the theming or you care about the styling, you should be writing specific expect clauses that say, I expect that this prop will have this styling. Oh, this component will have this styling. And if you really care about the front end, people have reminded me that visual regression exists. So I can't list any tools, unfortunately, because I've forgotten the one that I was using. Someone mentioned about using Storybook today, but that just prints out, this is a visual picture of what your UI will look like. This is what it looks like now. Here are the differences. Are you happy with them? And I think that that's a much better use of snapshots.
That's great. I'll have a microphone. I'll ask you another question.
Go for it. Love it.
It's about testing.
Okay.
So, well, actually, you did this.
Oh, phew.
It's about the psychology and testing. So most of us suffer this testing because when you see the test fail, we are always like, oh my god, what's been funny again? How to go through the frustration of fixing the test and being committed, because you mentioned in your talk that you need to be committed, but at the same time you can give up on it. How do you know when to stop and when to continue?
Great question. Because yeah, mostly I've just been using a rule of thumb. Through practice, I can definitely see when something is a lost cause. It's I would say if anything is taking you longer than a day and you're already at like 75% code coverage, I would say stop. Like you have to, every single case is different. You have to think about balance. Have I done enough use cases? Have I done enough coverage? How much am I actually getting out of making this one test work? And how much time have I sunk into it? So again, it's hard to give a good rule of thumb. I would say if you're taking one test is taking you half a day to a day, you should probably consider trying it a different way or giving up.
Makes sense. I'm with you here. I'm absolutely with you here. Now we're gonna ask a question for Faduma. And the question is, I mean, I think it's kind of a question for everybody, but when you have a review, before deploying anything or being ready for the review, how long does it take? Is that a long process? Is that supposed to be kind of, what is the process look like?
So PR reviews.
Huh?
PR reviews.
Yeah, the PR reviews.
Yeah, so my thought process is that nothing should be surprising in a PR review. Like if you had those discussions, you know what's expected, people following patterns, it shouldn't be like a massive surprise that this is how the solution to this task, because that's really, you're following what's existing. So PRs for me are quite routine. So I like to do it in the morning. I get my coffee, I sit down and I review PRs, and they should, I don't know, like maybe 10 minutes. I don't know. I shouldn't take too long. So I really like to use a VS Code. So I pull down the PR, make sure that it actually is working. It does what it's supposed to do. I also look at the ticket that's attached to see that it's supposed to doing what it's supposed to be doing. If there's any tests, and all the things that you went through today, all those are the things that you're going to be checking for in a PR to make sure that we are getting good code.
Yeah.
Same. So same thing. It should not be surprising. So what I did do as a senior developer, we do a thrice a week technical discussions where whole team come together, talk about their story which they have picked, what approach they are taking, and what other developers feels about it. If we feel that it should be another way or some other thing, we express so that there is no surprise in the PR. Also, we do maintain a contents page for the coding patterns, that what we as a organization, what we are following, so that making sure every developer is doing this. And I believe in raising work in progress PR rather than a big PR. That helps the reviewers a lot. and make the things go fast. Same thing in the morning, first thing to do is start doing the code reviews. Sit on your system, check open PRs, start making sure that they are running, what the UX team is expecting, what kind of requirements we were having, they are matching. I also do one thing which is actually passed to me by one of my senior, that whenever you are reviewing any line of code, think if you would have done that, how you would have done that, and just compare the both approaches and then think, is it good, performance is meeting, impacting, what is happening, how you can improve it, scaling, how you can, if tomorrow are scalable, something we need to add in this particular code, is it scalable approach or not. So these 2-3 things I also try to think about when I'm reviewing. If you are having short work in progress PRs coming your way, it should not be will take much time to review.
Following question
Okay.
here about the
Okay.
consistency and reusability. Did it ever happen to you when you have somebody push the code and the code is not consistent? So you can't reuse it, the state is not really thought through. What would you do? How would you communicate to the developer that this needs to be changed, or what is the way? Have you ever seen that in your career?
Yes, it's very common that whenever you are joining a new company or working with someone, definitely way of workings are different. As a not just as a senior person, but I think as a fellow person, you should be polite by saying that, you know, we could work, and I always prefer to use word we over you or I, because at the end of the code it is of company, it's of an organization, so we all are working together on that. So I always mention whenever I do code review, I put that suggestion, we should think about the consistency and why we are doing it. I work from home, we never talk, so it's only text, and sadly text it do and it doesn't express the emotion. It depends upon the other person, how that person is reading. So I prefer to prefix my feedback when I'm texting, that it's a suggestion and why I'm doing this. So these two things help me to provide the feedback. And the other thing is, I also try to help and understand if the developer is new, to provide some links and get on a call. I don't want to lower their morale, so I get on the call with them and I try to explain that why we are doing it, what is the advantage you will get out of this, and what the advantage the code will get out of this. So yeah, I'm little bit, I think I'm so soft person.
Actually, on that point, and I will ask the question to everybody, because I think pull request reviews and having communicating with the team is always very important. But have you seen the developers when they disagree with your opinion? And what would you do about like communicating back about your opinions? Do you take approach that you need to push the developer to do something? Do you take approach that you're communicating, then they bring the team? What is the approaches you would
It happens,
suggest to you?
yeah, it happens all the time, and it's actually a very learning experience when you get challenged by some other developer that your approach is not right, or this is not right, this is right. As a developer, I also try to learn that from where they are coming, and I try to compare that where my approach is it's not correct, and where their approach is correct, and what are the differences are there, and try to deal maturely, discuss about this, discuss about the requirement. As I told you, scalability, performance, accessibility, what are the requirements we have, these all things we try to discuss. At the end of the day, the code is not a personal thing. What we are trying to do is we are shipping the code for a organization. So I try to discuss, and at the end of the day, the which one is winning approach, we will go through that. Yes, there are tough people who don't take your view, who are like, no, this is right, this is right. So I prefer to tell them that, let's do a POC. That would be the best thing to do. You do your POC and then try to add these many requirements, and then we will see that how it is going. And because that developer is already coming with that mentality that I'm correct, eventually they try to feel that where their approach is failing. So yeah, this is how I try to do it.
Do you want to add anything on your experience?
Yeah, I think depersonalizing it, I think is really important, because it's not about right or wrong. It's not about you failed and etc. PR reviews, like I said, is about the team and the project and what you're producing there. It's not your personal like project, so it's and I come through that with that mindset as well when I'm reviewing it. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and so I rather have a discussion. I don't really like having major back and forths on a PR or even Slack. If it's like more than two, let's have a conversation. Let's go on, Slack, Huddle, or Zoom, and actually have a conversation as to why, your perspective on what's going on, and yeah, and I think what I want to bring back to what I said about having like team cohesion and team understanding. I think if you have that already, where people know what the patterns are, what we value, and what we want to achieve, then those kind of harsh kind of discussions where someone does not want to move doesn't really happen. Yeah, that's really my thought.
Yeah, I think those were all really good points. I couldn't really have said it better myself. The one thing is have external documentation of some of your standards so that you can always call back to it.
That's a very good point. That is a very good point. On this note, what is the biggest challenge you face as a woman in tech? Because we are ReactJS Girls, we are not talking only about the React, we are talking about the experience as a woman being in tech.
I would say my experience has been pretty charmed. I was saying earlier how for the last 4 or 5 years I've been working on 50% female teams. I then got called out from it because my old colleague is here and she said, "Oh, that was just because we followed all the other girls around." I was like, "I don't think that's true." So I've honestly been so lucky with mentoring. I've never had a problem with my gender. And yeah, I really have nothing to say on this one.
That is great. That's amazing.
Me on the other hand, I think it's been challenging, definitely, and I have been the only woman, also only black person in a team majority of the time in my career. I had a nice experience at Conde. Conde, shout out to you. My team was also 50% women, but that is quite a rarity for me in the industry. It's definitely been challenges. I feel like when I first started, I was very meek. I am kind of introverted, but now I feel like I can, push and speak for myself and feel confident with my experience, also my knowledge. But that came with time. So yeah.
So I'm not sure those were challenges, but I always other people used to highlight that I am a female, I'm in tech, and I was like, how does it make any difference? Because at the end of the day, what we say is we are techie. So when in India, when I was running my meetup, no one knew about meetup at that time, and I was the female person who was running the tech meetup. So a lot of incidents used to happen. For many years, I was the only female in room full of males. And once there was a guy came and he said, he just entered and I was preparing for meetup and he was like, "Who is Neha?" So I said, "Yeah, I am Neha. Are you doing the meetup?" I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Oh, I just come to see how a female can do a tech meetup." I was like, "Okay." Okay, fine. And then I used to discuss with my family, my father, who actually pushed me to the technical world. He always used to tell me that do not let your gender come between your career or anything. It has nothing to do that. And I always work like this. And there was once I got a promotion and I become a manager. There was a person in my team and he said no to work with me because indirectly he don't want to report to a female manager. And I went, and my manager at that time, he was mentioning me that I think this is the problem. And I laughed and I said, "You know what? I'm a female and I'm not in the mood to change it. So you figure it out what you want to do with it." So yeah, there were challenges, but I always found a way to handle it. And what I found after so many years, it's more than 10 years I'm working in tech. The thing is, unless until more females will not come forward and sit like this, attend like this, there will always be the question like this. So it's better to have a representation matters. So please all the females, if they are online hearing on YouTube or wherever, please be more visible. This is what I feel.
Question on this note, what would you recommend for the women or people which are starting just their career in tech? What would you suggest them to look at? Because there are so many multiple options to learn React or HTML or CSS or JavaScript or Python, and then we can continue non-stop. Which website or which boot camps or like anything, pair programming with somebody, call your friend and start pair programming with it. What would you suggest to start the career in tech?
You want to you start, then I will go ahead.
For people that are like completely brand new, who have never done any coding at all, who just want to know what's going on, I always say do something free like Code Academy, just for you, so you can have a taste of what it's like to like code, and from there you can decide whether you want to become a developer. There's loads of different routes to technology. There's DevOps, front end, back end. There's huge amounts of things to do, but yeah, start off with Code Academy. See if you like it, if it jives with you. If it does, then there's loads of other programs for minorities. There's Code First Girls and others that do tasters of free courses and eventually boot camps. You can do a master's as well. There's so many options now. So I think it's an amazing time to be like starting as a developer. So yeah. Also, I feel like just go somewhere for an event just so that you can meet other people, so you can get motivated. Because starting off with people is really nice, where you can talk about your frustrations and the challenges you're having and motivate you into joining the industry. And also it's cathartic to be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, are you struggling too? And hopefully you could end up like us here. Yay.
So I'm one of the people that joined a consultancy with not a specific dev role, and from that I was able to eke out a dev role. A lot of big companies have like return to work schemes or these kind of like new joiner schemes that might give you the flexibility to be able to make it work for you. I know at the moment that giffgaff are currently employing completely junior, never done coding before, and putting them through an intensive year-long training opportunity. So those things do exist, and as I'm someone that, again, I don't like coding at home, I like doing it as my job. Recommend doing that because you get paid while you're still making your way towards what you want to do. I've seen boot camps work a lot. I mean, we have someone here today where boot camp really worked. But again, Code Academy was also a great shout. That's where I started learning to code as well.
Yeah, it's basically don't be afraid to start coding and everything. If something goes wrong, keep going, keep pushing. Well, that was all my questions for now. Thank you very much, our amazing speakers. Let's just applaud them. All the amazing talks, and you'll be able to find them if you wish. But for now, I will let you sit back. And we are finally almost done and we'll go to classroom. So see you in a second. I have some gifts for you. But I ain't gonna. But before we go, first of all, thank you everybody who was hosting this event, for the whole team of YLD, that all of the people which were doing our live stream. Thank you everybody watching us, and we were very happy to have all of you here. We have a little gift. If you will check under your seat, and maybe check your neighbor's seat as well, if you want, you will be able to find some cards. Yeah, don't be shy. If you can't find it, just, try again. You will definitely be able to find something.
No.
I don't know. Should be a sticker, should be card.
They just want to make this look silly. Someone got something like this.
Oh. So somebody found the card there. Keep checking. There must be like some other chairs around. I didn't know that I wasn't the one who was hiding them. So I'm so sorry, but it must be something around. Come on. That's what we got. We've got first one. We've got the second one. No, that's not the one. Unfortunately, do not damage our sponsors' chairs because that is bad. We did say don't misbehave, people. So yeah, we have only 2, 3. Lewis, how many people do we have with the cards? 2 people. Come and see these lovely people. They will tell you something. Unfortunately, they didn't give me anything, so I don't know what that is. But I will come and talk to you after. And I went the wrong way. So we are really wanting to announce the ReactJS Girls 24, but currently we are looking for the sponsors. So if you work in a company, if you're wanting to sponsor our event and bring ReactJS Girls to your company or host it, please do let us know because there are a lot of people around which are working in YLD. And if you want to be a speaker, we're always welcoming new people, new faces to talk about stuff and hosting events as well. And we have our sister event, which was actually happened yesterday, and it was so great, so amazing. It's Design System London event, and the next one will be on the 22nd of March, and it will be the second one. And our sponsor will be Just Eat Takeaway. So do make sure you will get tickets because the tickets are getting sold out so quickly. So thank you very much for joining us. I will finally make it work. Catch with us on our social media. Make sure that you are staying tuned in, and we will be going to the pub, and address is right here. From what I know, it is 3-5 minutes away. 2 minutes away. It's literally next corner, apparently, like next door to us. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. I'm still alive. I didn't run away, so I think we are doing great.